A lot of things in business come out of fear, where the bigger the company is, the harder it is to change something, because you have to persuade not just one person in that department, you have to persuade 500. That comes at the cost of not just persuading them, but also these guys also have fear. They think they might lose their job because they have a very narrow job description that they want to fill out.
Welcome to the Rabasha Family Podcast. We have a very special guest in the building. This episode was going to be very special. Leadership, marketing, growth, and strategy. We have Sebastian here, an executive leader and strategic advisor with such depth and experience. Born in Leipzig in the 90s, Sebastian grew up in a city defined by history, transformation, and resilience. He watched his surroundings evolve and he learned that change is an opportunity, not an obstacle. And that's so powerful in the day and age we're living in now. He had a mindset that shaped his leadership style ever since. And with such a diverse career, starting off as a youth medalist swimmer and basketball coach, from those days, he understood the power of strategy, execution, and team dynamics. Whether it's in sports, business, success comes from vision, precision, and adaptability. And that's exactly how Sebastian has helped scale brands and businesses. The real challenge, growth, isn't just more about effort, it's about smarter strategy. And now Sebastian has been applying his passion and his vision for so many years. And he's noticed so many things. Companies struggling with scaling without strategy, marketing that doesn't convert, and execution without leadership. And that's where he saw the gap in the marketplace. So now we are here, and what he does best is with his scaling and market expansion, business turns around, AI and marketing, iGaming and fintech expertise, leadership and growth. His biggest achievements, he's built and sold a founder-led marketing and localization agency, ranked number 1 on Google for top 20 greatest female athletes of all time for 2 years straight, Guinness World Record champion, and smarter than 99% of CEOs, according to a fantastic game he's played on LinkedIn. So he's worked with amazing founders, CMOs, fintech, SaaS, and media who need leadership alignment and a really go-to-market strategy. So thank you so much, Sebastian. What an amazing intro into who you are and the work and the dedication you've put into your career.
Marketing is all about storytelling. Dad, when we first started this business, what did you say to me?
I said, yes, we do a podcast.
Why?
Because I want to tell our story.
Why?
Because I know the story builds a legacy.
Builds a legacy. And that is exactly what we do here at ETS Rabasha Media. We market your story on social media so you could build a legacy for those who come after you, to build your business and your personal brand.
Yeah, follow us on our platform. Go on our website, etsrabashamedia.com.
This is about legacy, and it is about showing up on social media every single day, because if you don't show up, your competition will.
Thank you so much for the intro. Really well done. Yeah, that's pretty much me. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries at all. So, Sebastian, take us a little bit back. We learned a little bit about Leipzig there, for the people who didn't know, and a little of that history and from where you're from. So can you talk to us a little bit from the start, how you grew up, what was life like, and how you got to where you are now?
Since I grew up, okay, let's go back that far. So I grew up in socialist Eastern Germany. So if you haven't grown up in a socialist country, you wouldn't know what it feels like. There is, especially as a kid, so the first 9 years was just straight up socialism. As a kid, you don't really realize it that much. You kind of feel the indoctrination coming, but in the beginning, it's just very slowly coming into you. But what I learned back then was that team effort is really important. That's one of the good things. That's one of the good takeaways from back then. We were all equal. We all were trying to achieve greatness, so to speak. I mean, yes, for the big socialist ideal, but we were all working together, and that's what we learned. And this helped shape me throughout my years. And then the wall fell. Leipzig was basically that main city to drive the reunification. 100,000 people in the streets in a city of 450,000. Used to be an extremely important city before the Second World War, and then obviously socialism, and then it kind of had to reshape everything, because the first 10 years and the 90s, pretty much everyone was unemployed, tried to find their new ways to somehow understand this new system. Because capitalism comes in, socialism is gone. You have to deal with this new system, but also nobody's telling you anymore what to do. But nobody's teaching you, nobody's coaching you how to use the new system. And that really helped shape me with all of the struggle people were going through around me, and how people still evolved from that into what Leipzig is right now. It's always been the city of potential. That has been the slogan for years. Sometimes, I mean, personally, I sometimes feel it's more like the city of unused potential or untapped potential, because it's a typical German thing to just look at the problems first before you solve them. Whereas the Americans will usually come in and say, "Oh, there's a problem. Let's solve it first, and then we'll look at the rest." Whereas Germans are always like, "Okay, so what are the next 50 problems that we might be able to run into, and then let's solve these first before we even start." So this whole thing shaped me a lot, and being a basketball coach in my 20s during my studies really helped with the leadership style that I bring to teams now, and then also with the whole marketing side. I always want to help people to see the best in not just themselves, but also in the brands that they're buying, because that's what I believe. I don't want to work with brands that I don't believe in, and that's the way that I work. I want to believe in the brand myself. I want to be able to buy the brand, and then I want to work with that brand and reshape the narrative, reshape the story, and build that up. Because I come from a place that needed to reshape and needed to rebuild, and that's the mindset I always bring.
Powerful. So can you talk a little bit about basketball? What similarities, when you look at basketball, the strategy, the formations, what similarities, and I know you talked a little bit about teamwork, but what similarities do you see in basketball that you could compare in the business, right? Is like, for example, if the coach is the CEO, how does all of that play a role into business, and how did that shape your mindset? Can you give us some practical similarities that we can envision on how they relate?
Yes. Basketball is one of the very few team sports where everyone on the field has to be able to play every position to a certain extent. There are only very few other team sports like this. Most sports, I mean, if single player sports, obviously you are the sole responsible person right now if you win or lose. Whereas in team sports, any team sports, you always have to rely on trusting your team partner, and trusting in basketball, it's 4 other people on the field with you, whereas there are 7 more people waiting to be on the field as well, on the bench. And you need to be able to trust that the next person next to you is able to execute as well. And you need to be able to have the vision for the next play, basically. And that's essentially what I bring in to business as well. I want to be able to, me as a person, as someone inside of a system, and whichever that system is, could be basketball, could be business. Inside of that system, I want to be able to trust the next person to execute well. And if that person needs help, in basketball would be training, right? Like training sessions. Obviously in business, same thing. You would train that person up to a level that allows that person to execute at a level that you want that person to execute. So me coming from the playing perspective, but also from the coaching perspective, that really helps. And the main thing with basketball is playing different positions. Whereas in most other team sports, you have your fixed position. Yes, you can run across the field and cover other positions sometimes, maybe like for 5 to 10% of the time, but mostly you're relatively fixed. Whereas in basketball, oftentimes strategy dictates that the biggest guy who's usually under the basket has to play outside for most of the game, because that's the strategy to win that specific game. So that's what really helped me understand how business is fluid, so to speak. And a lot of businesses, especially big companies, corporates, they're just stuck in their system, they're stuck in their ways. And even if you bring them new ideas, they can't operate. I always try to compare this with a big tanker. They're just on the ocean, they're just going straight. And then if you want to change course, it takes them 10 kilometers or 10 miles or however, right? To change course just slightly with a big tanker doesn't move. Takes forever. Whereas with a speedboat, you can easily navigate, but you cannot transport that much. So I always try to bring both things at the same time. So a tanker, like there, you have the option to really drive a lot of product, so to speak, a lot of revenue, but also being able to be a speedboat and change course as quickly as possible. And I would love for more big companies, for more corporates to adapt that strategy, to have more of a startup thinking, a startup feeling. The same thing with basketball. You always need to restart for the next game. And a lot of corporates, a lot of big businesses, they are just going straight, and they don't look at improvements. They just go straight. And that's what I really value from my coaching experience, that I can bring this next play, next game, and always try to change the tactics with the people that you have.
I think that also comes down a lot to vision. But why is that? Why are the big companies, why are they like that? Why do they move with that, exactly like what you said? And for example, I'll give an example, let's say even in politics, right? You look at the last election, Donald Trump and Kamala, Kamala was very going to the news, very old school, right? They kept playing the old game, where Donald Trump, exactly what you said. Okay, podcasting. Let me go on podcast. Let me go here. He adapted quickly. So it was kind of like corporate versus entrepreneur. So why you'd think the corporates, they've been around for so long, you'd think that they have obviously such quite robust systems and they've got the revenue. Why do you think they're slow to make quick movements when they see what's happening in the marketplace?
I mean, obviously for a short podcast, it's hard to just pin it down, but I always believe it comes out of fear. A lot of things in business come out of fear, where the bigger the company is, the harder it is to change something, because you have to persuade not just one person in that department, you have to persuade 500. That comes at the cost of not just persuading them, but also these guys also have fear. They think they might lose their job because they have a very narrow job description that they want to fill out. And then you give them something, you come up with a new idea, and then they think, well, this is not my job description, so are you going to fire me? Because then I'm not executing that specific thing anymore. Whereas there needs to be trust for any employee, wherever they are in the line of business. They are all a team. They need to work together. And yes, sometimes your job descriptions might change, but there needs to be trust from leadership as well. And oftentimes I see this fear in leadership as well. They don't know how to execute that change within the company because they've never learned how to do this. I always see when I talk to different levels in businesses, I always see that it comes back to fear of change and never having gone through any change at all. Any big adversity. We all have our demons. We all have gone through certain obstacles in life. I completely understand that, but there are people who have gone through more adversity in their lives than others. And these people are more prepared for change because they understand that this is not the end, so to speak. And a lot of people who are very, let's say, career focused, career driven by just going down one specific path, oftentimes they also went down through this one specific path because they followed specific steps, which also means they cannot look left and right to change the path slightly because that's the path they want to follow. They are very structured. So looking at change, that's not the type of person they are. And that's the type of person that's usually hired in big corporates, which is not a bad thing until you need change.
Wow, very powerful, and the way you put it, and it's so true. It's very true. So, can you talk within your experience, like talk to us a little bit about a project, because where you are as a CMO, coming into companies where they have that startup where they can come in, and have a CMO because they don't have a huge budget to like the corporates do for a CMO. So they have someone with your vision and expertise. Can you talk to us a little bit about a project that you came into a startup or you came in and that gave you that energy that showed, your class and how you come in and help, companies scale with revenue and their marketing?
So essentially any startup can have that feeling, so to speak. It's just a matter of leadership, understanding that anything falls onto them. So we have this saying in German where the fish reeks from the head. So the opposite is also true. The head starts the whole innovation. The head comes up with all of the ideas that they want to reshape. And if the head it sounds a bit weird in English, I feel, but still, if the person driving it, if the founder is open for new ideas and really wants to drive this forward and sees the business itself as the main driving factor and not one specific small idea that he had a couple of months or years ago, then it's much easier to go in and help and come up with new tactics on building that startup or building that business up. I see the opposite side of this the other type of person is which goes back to fear, but they're very uncoachable. You see that they have a vision. That's one thing, and vision is great, but then they cannot deviate from that path. So if they are that type of person, it's very hard to work with them, because then you cannot come up with a new idea, because they always thought, let's say marketing related, they always thought that, well, we have to do Facebook ads. That's the thing in Facebook ads. We want to drive and scale Facebook ads. But then maybe for their business, Facebook ads is just not the best thing to do right now. Maybe Facebook ads itself works, but the funnel after doesn't work. Or the content you are driving to the Facebook ads doesn't work at all. Doesn't work either way for, at all, or for that target audience. Let's say you have a, let's call it like a more sophisticated target audience, and then you come in with an idea that is not sophisticated, basically, and you're talking to the wrong target audience. So the Facebook ads can't even convert. If your organic content doesn't convert, then the Facebook ads won't convert and the funnel doesn't convert. So that's the opposite of the coin. So basically, if this is there, that type of behavior is there, then it's hard for me to work with them. But if they're open, then I can come in and then I can drive, and then I see these, then I see that people's eyes light up from the ideas coming in. So I worked with this media startup, for example, about a year ago, for nearly about a year, starting last September, and the foundations were there. And I just came in with new ideas, and we had these meetings, especially with my right hand back then, where I basically just spilled out all of the ideas onto paper, and we were just going through them. And then she brought them all, like, she's more of the operational type than me, more of the creational type, and she brought all of these ideas together into one streamlined timeline, right? We want to execute, and we brought this to the team, and then the whole team got excited about what we want to do, because everyone was open to the idea. That's the main thing. You need to be open, and when you're open, then I can come in, I can look at monetization ideas, I can even look at what the whole business is doing wrong, so to speak, because if you're not driving anything, then what are you doing? If you're not driving revenue, essentially. If you break it down to the furthest thing, I mean, the topic today is growth and revenue, but essentially, if you're not making money, then it's a hobby. So everybody needs to be okay with, yes, this is important to drive money, to drive revenue, and that's what we need to do, because essentially the whole thing is, if you don't understand that the main reason why you're there is the business itself, then you will have problems. And if you understand, yes, business, we're driving this thing forward, we're driving this ship, then it's easy to work with people, because you just come in and help them steer the ship. But if you're ego-driven and you don't understand how business itself works, then you won't let any outside help in. And I see this, let's take this a step further. I see this with founders often, that the founder sessions, the mentorship on growth and revenue actually turn into a therapy session on mindset. That is it's a really important finding. So I've worked in the last 6 months, I've worked with nearly 100 different founders on different blockers, and half of them needed more of a therapy session on understanding that the blocker that they have is not actually a business blocker, not a tactical blocker. It's more a blocker in their mindset. They don't understand that this is what needs to be done, that they needed someone to take the outside look and to tell them, yes, what you have done, I understand, you have done something, but it's not the right thing you did. To take the step back and take your ego out of the whole thing, that's important. And those people I love to work with, the ones that understand, that are coachable, they understand where they want to drive this. And that's basically what differentiates this. And that's the type of business that I like to work with.
It was perfect, which once leads me to my next question. What's your experience mainly like, B2B or B2C?
Both, actually. I love working with both. Essentially, everything goes down to psychology. And it doesn't matter who you target in that sense, because you're always talking to people. Because even in B2B, there's another person sitting there. And you want to use all of the tactics, so to speak, to convert that person on the other side. Certain products in B2B are much more exciting than B2C products out there. Some B2C products out there are extremely boring. But boring businesses often drive revenue, but they don't need big marketing tactics. They just work, and they can just drive things forward. Whereas I like to work where things get exciting, so to speak. It's the same thing in life. I always try to make the decision for the more exciting path in my life. And it's the same thing with business, or with B2B or B2C. Whatever is exciting, then I want to jump in and then I want to help. If the product, B2C or B2B, is helping that other side, that's what I want to do.
I love how you put it. It's true. No matter B2B, B2C, you're speaking to a human being. I saw that in a book. I never lose a customer again, which is quite a powerful book. So what did you notice? Because I want to talk about the two differences in terms of marketing, but also in terms of the sales cycle. When you're marketing B2B, B2C, what are the differences in the sales cycle with B2B and B2C? Did you notice?
That B2C is often much faster. That's definitely the main finding, I feel. With B2B, it really comes down to basically to the price point. So the higher the price, the longer it takes, even though the revenue creation from the high price, you need to make the other person, now we're talking about the other person again, you need to make the other person understand that this new thing drives value. To be B2C, it always needs to drive some form of value. So if I pay money, I want to make more value back, whatever that value is, be it, I don't know, be it fun because I'm going to a water park, or be it I learned something, for example, B2C, and I can drive value from that. But from your tool, your service needs to create value for the other person, and that value needs to be explained. And this explanation takes a little bit longer oftentimes. In B2C, you often have an understanding of the product and of the value that the product can give you. And it's much easier to explain unless it's super new, like with the smartphones back then. Unless it's really new, what your concept and your product, then it might take a little bit longer to persuade people to buy. But even then, in B2B, it's much longer. And because also it's not just one person you need to persuade, it's oftentimes more people. So you have to persuade the first person to then take it to the team, and that team needs to decide. And then maybe in the team, they have another leader, and that leader needs to be persuaded as well, because that person is removed from the team. So let's say you have the digital marketing team, but then there's the head of digital marketing, and then there's also the CMO. But the CMO also needs to talk to the CFO, because the CFO has to greenlight the budget. So all of this, like I always try to find the easiest words for this, because it doesn't matter if I use fancy words, because this is essentially what happens. And if you cannot drive this decision back to the CFO with different pain points, and that's the main thing, then you lose the contract. But it takes a while to persuade everyone, because the digital marketing team, oftentimes, yes, they should care about the revenue, but mostly they look at, does this make my life easier in driving my job description forward for this business right now? And then the next person looks more at the KPIs, but the CFO is looking more at the revenue created. So it takes longer, and you have to explain this a little bit more with different types of content, with different types of stories, basically, and different benefits for different people. So that's why it takes longer. Whereas with the B2C, you just tell them, well, you will have fun. Oh, okay, awesome. I want to have fun. Let's buy this. And then obviously, the more expensive this is, the harder it gets to persuade someone. Like for a water ride, for a water park, for example, let's say $20 is a good investment. But if you ask them for $2,000 just to go for to do some water slides, might be a little bit too much. But if you find the right price point, it's relatively easy. Here you have fun, $20. All right, good, I'll buy it. And that's a split-second decision. Whereas in business, much longer.
On the B2C side, if you do have a higher price point, then you're maybe targeting a different customer. But when you get that customer, that sales cycle could be quicker, as long as they also see the value in that. So
yes, absolutely. But also the thing is, if the price is much higher with your B2C, it's also that your product and the created value behind it is perceived much higher for this person. So usually, I mean, a handbag is a handbag is a handbag is a handbag, right? It's just the same thing. But the perceived value behind it is obviously driving certain price points. So earning a cheap handbag for $20 from a market next door, that works because you can store stuff inside, just as the same with the Birkin bags for tens of thousands of dollars. It's still the same thing. You store stuff inside, but the perceived value behind it is bigger. But also, you're not talking with this price point, you're talking to a person who wants to afford that price point, and you don't have to persuade that person too much because that person understands the value already. That's the difference there.
So, like, when it comes to campaigns and the marketing campaigns, what are you seeing now with also AI here? What are you seeing that works? And both on the B2B and B2C side, UGC content, podcasting content, what drives, right? Like, how can companies use campaigns, use content to be able to drive them revenue? What are you noticing?
Yes, absolutely. So AI is obviously, it's huge right now, and everybody's talking about this for the last 2 years, give or take. So ChatGPT, I think we're starting to get big. I think end of 2023, pretty much two years ago. The content and the quality has gotten a lot better with this, and more companies should try to use at least parts of those systems, even if it's just for research for their content. But everything goes back to story. That's the main driving factor for me. So whenever I talk to my clients, it's always about the story that they want to tell to their customers and to their clients, depending on what they want to do. Is the story that they're driving, is that working for their target audience? And then it doesn't really matter if it is AI, if the story is done well, I believe. As long as it makes sense to use AI in that case. If AI doesn't make sense, then why use it? First of all, for the story, but also for the content. So some people are already they're over the fact that there's so much AI content out there. They will completely devalue your product if you're using AI. Everything is just AI. But for some other products, it still works, but only if you use it as an extra. So if everything is just AI, you will find people that will turn away from your brand for good because all of your marketing is just AI. But if you use it as the dial, so to speak, just dial it up a little bit, use a little bit of AI here. Maybe, for example, you remember this, I'm not sure if you remember this or anyone watching this, there was this campaign from Old Spice. It's around 20 years old of this guy. So now I'm at the shower and now I'm on the horse and now I'm here and now I'm there. This is something where AI could have cost massively. You don't need a full production team anymore, but you can still drive that same content with the same actor, but at a much lower cost. And that's when it works. That's when AI works. But if you just use some cheap visuals created from AI, that will turn people away. If you use AI to speed up the content creation process, let's say for shots of, let's say you have a product and that product needs to be surrounded by trees and flowers and maybe some sand. It's much easier to get that done than driving somewhere, getting a full tree, then getting some sand, pouring it there, going to the studio, doing the full thing. It takes you around 2 days. You have to pay for the whole thing. So that's when AI can come in and help you with this new visual that you want to do. I see AI really overperform now. They overperform over the old ways. Companies can cut costs, but mostly not on the person side, not on the human side. They should cut costs on production, on time, and on resources, on like physical resources, but not on the person handling it. Because oftentimes I see companies just using someone who promised them, oh yeah, we'll do everything in AI. You can fire everyone in your department. I'm just one single guy, just do the whole thing. And then the whole thing cracks because it's just not valuable enough for what you want to do. So you still need to keep people who understand what you're doing, what they are doing with, let's say, a graphic designer. I'm not a graphic designer. I can come up with some campaigns that are visually appealing. An actual graphic designer could come in and really critique what has been done. So a graphic designer can prompt an actual, or I could theoretically prompt what I want to see, but the graphic designer still needs to do some final touches on this. And that needs to be an experienced person, someone who really understands what drives visual experience for the customers. Same goes for content. There is a lot of content you can write with AI, but oftentimes it's just bland. There's no personality, and you need to create content that has this human touch. And even if that means you come up with the full structure by AI because you feed the AI with a certain amount of ideas and even some background story, let's say for yourself, and then the AI comes up with certain ideas around this which you might have taken 2 days to come up with, and the AI does it in 2 seconds, and then you take that and work from there and add the human touch again. So human touch first, a little bit of AI, and then human touch again. That's how I see this right now, and that's what drives us forward. But more companies should definitely work with this and trust that they can speed up certain processes and they can save time and money from this. That's what I would love to see. Most people are not ready, which brings me back to fear, but that's another company.
This is another topic for a different day. Well, you're someone who, even when we first spoke and reached out, you're someone who has a powerful personal brand, and you've been intentional about your personal brand. Can you talk about the art of a personal brand and how much that also relates to sales. So I'll give you a small example. What we do a lot in our business, we do client acquisition for our clients, right? We go and help drive revenue. But what makes that sales process easier is a personal brand. If I open up an email and you send me an email, okay, most people send, again, it's a different topic in terms of the rubbish they send, just copy and paste. But you send an email and then you go on your profile, there's nothing there. You check out their website. So how does that relate? Because we know the power in that when you get that email, then we look you up, then it's a powerful personal brand. That helps the sales because it looks like, wow, this person's serious. And that's something that we stress too when we're doing client acquisition. So can you talk about the personal brand authenticity and how that plays a role when it comes to marketing, sales, B2B, also B2C? And your experience in there?
Absolutely. So personal brand is one of the most important things, I believe, in everything you're doing, everything. So this brings me back to dating. Same thing as well. I often try to explain to people who are not deep in the marketing bubble, so to speak. I try to explain this whole customer conversion as a dating process. If you go to a date and you are not compatible with everyone, it's totally fine. But you still present your own personality. You present the type of person you are. You present yourself and the other person presents them. And then you need to somehow understand, oh, yes, we want to meet again or we don't want to meet again, right? Very similar to this. Same goes for the networking sessions. People will remember you from networking sessions as well, because you are driving conversations around certain topics that are interesting to you. I couldn't talk about, let's go back to sports. I couldn't talk about rugby that much, for example. So I'm not the rugby guy, but people would understand, people would know, basketball, I have a basketball question. Let's talk to Sebastian, for example. Same goes for, and that's the personal brand here for the business side. If someone has a technical question or how to fix a car, they wouldn't call me. But if they have a marketing question, they would immediately think of me. If they have a leadership question, they would think of me. And that's the power of network. I'm talking to so many people right now. I'm also connecting people on investments right now. So I've invested myself in some smaller companies. And through this, I've talked to so many people that I can now connect companies that are looking for 20 million in funding to investors that have 20 million in funding ready. And then I can connect them. But they are only talking to me because my personal brand is structured in a way that I'm not just the marketer, I'm also the growth guy, and I'm also the connector of people. But this only happened because I put the work in. And if you're not visible, then nobody will know who you are and what you do. And if they don't know what you do, how would they be able to talk to you? Like even with my best friends, same for everyone who's watching this. It's let's say we're on Instagram or on TikTok, we see a funny video or we see an informative video, we will automatically think about the person who might be interested in that specific video. We won't send it to 50 people. We will usually think about, that's something for that guy, I'll send it to him. And that's the same thing with the personal brand. Me, for example, I'm quite lucky because I'm the only one with my name in the world. It's much more easy for me to build that brand. Whereas I have a really good friend, let's just drop a name, Markus Müller-Hanefeld, really long name. But if you just took the first part, Markus Müller is one of the most common names in Germany, like John Smith, basically in English. So he used another name from his family side to combine those. And now he has this brand name and everybody knows him under this brand name as a movie director and as an AI video creator. That's important because now people are talking about him with that brand name. And same for everybody else. People make a buying decision on that type of person. And the absolute biggest examples are Steve Jobs. People trust Apple because Steve Jobs pushed this forward so much on his personal brand. People sometimes even believe that a certain feature on Apple is so amazing only because it's on Apple and Steve saw Apple, they pushed it. But Android came out with the same feature 2 years before, but that feature was not important because nobody was driving it on the Android side. So his personal brand now drove this, and Apple fan people and fanboys, fangirls, they're all like, oh wow, this is so amazing! Look at what you can do. But we had this before. And same goes with Tesla. Same thing. It's a completely oversaturated and inflated stock, but people still believe in it because they believe the guy behind it driving the vision forward. It doesn't matter what you think about the person, about Elon Musk. It's just his personal brand drives the stock. So that's what people need to understand looking at their own business, be it a small business or even just a freelancer. People need to know who you are and people need to know the story behind the whole thing. That's why my personal brand, for example, is built around growth, global experiences, where I drive stories on LinkedIn, for example, where I talk to different people from different cultures and how they react to certain adversities or how they reacted in a meeting and how people are different. I always say we all have two eyes and a mouth, but the way we grew up is so different. And that's also part of my personal brand. That's part of everyone else's personal brand, because then they are known as that guy from that culture, which can help drive revenue, drive business in that specific culture. Just as me being here in Dubai, for example, I see a lot of people driving the Muslim side of themselves into connect the business part. So they drive business together forward together with other Muslim entrepreneurs. So that is their personal brand. They are not just an entrepreneur, they are the Muslim entrepreneur driving growth, for example. And that's really important.
Yeah, powerful. And it's like what I'm hearing from what you're saying is association as well, association. What when you think of that and that comes. And then I like also what you said about it allows you to be a connector, right? I think that's the same thing that we have here. That's with it's just we can connect so many different people because we have that personal brand. I love it. So I want to play a game where I will say a word and then whatever comes to your mind, first thing, one word, you got to say it. Okay.
Ooh, testing my English abilities. Okay, let's see.
And then I can get you to explain that word. So, for example, vision.
Progress.
Ooh, okay. Explain.
If you don't know where you're going, then how do you drive progress? How do you drive decisions? What do you do with when an opportunity shows up? For me, looking back let's look at the full business thing. So my vision is to get to a certain stage in business. So my biological dad, for example, he wants me to become a governmental employee in Germany because he thinks that's the safest thing I should do. Instead of being an entrepreneur, I should just do that. This would not drive anything for me personally. I would not have been able to travel the world, to circumnavigate the whole world, to be in so many different countries, to work in different cultures, to meet so many people. So my vision is up there. So I know where I need to drive the decisions. And that's the progress, the certain steps. It's not that it's linear, but if you know your vision, you know where to go.
I love that. Oh, that was so good. Progress. Leadership.
I would say team. I think because that's for me, that's the most important thing. I always want to bring people together in a team and to a shared, going back to the shared vision. I want people to work together and enable them. That's the leadership style that I have. Me personally, I don't want to be a top-down leader or top-down boss, so to speak. I want to be integrative. I want to be engaging. I want to hear everyone's opinion. And if people are a team and a well-functioning team, then they will look up to their leader and work with them. Otherwise, you are just a boss, so to speak.
I like that. Strategy.
That would bring me back to progress, I think. Because without strategy, there's no going forward. You can align your vision with the strategy, and then these two need to work in hand. Let's say either vision or progress, whatever. But that's the whole thing. If you know where you're going, then you can have a strategy towards this. But if you don't know where you're going, then how would you come up with a strategy for nothing, for thin air, so to speak? And that's, I think, either progress or strategy, progress or vision for strategy.
I love it. Resilience.
I think I want to say pain.
Please explain that.
If you haven't experienced pain, how would you be resilient to overcome the pain? I have this one good entrepreneur friend here. The other day, so we talked about entrepreneurship in general, and she said, "Well, you like to torture yourself as well, I see." So she feels that entrepreneurship can be torture because there's no linear path that you just follow. But everywhere, there's always someone who is the entrepreneur and leading this. But until then, you are just someone doing the strategy, right? But the moment something changes, it also brings pain, brings growing pain, brings something out in you that you might have never thought about. But that's the resilience to push through. If you give up at that point, then you're not resilient. So that's why I combine these both words.
Man, I nearly got goosebumps there. By the way, and I like that joke your friend made. It's so true. Like, going through those tough moments, even going and having to still go get a job while you're running the business, and going and doing that, like, to keep it afloat, but just to keep going. That resilience is quite powerful. CEO.
I want to say captain. Maybe that makes sense. There are different philosophies for CEOs out there, and the one that I like, the one that I believe in, is the captain of the team, the captain of the ship, the one that makes the decisions, the one that needs to trust that everybody else is executing. If you are the captain of the ship, you need to trust that someone down in engineering is keeping the engines running. You need to trust everybody else. You need to trust your first officer. You need to trust everyone to execute. But there are some CEOs who don't trust their team. So that's why I have a little bit of a difficulty to just say leader, because some CEOs or many CEOs are just top-down bosses. They don't trust anyone. They want to micromanage everything. They have 1,000 people in their company, but they want to be involved in every single decision that everybody else makes, which doesn't really help. I mean, yes, if you have a certain strategy, you want to see that you are going into the right direction, but you need to trust these people. So if you are a good CEO, then you are, in my book, you are a good captain. You are the person sailing across the oceans and finding America, for example, that kind of thing, right? That's the type of person I would follow. Someone who has the vision, someone who trusts everyone to execute that vision. That's the type of CEO I would follow, a true captain.
Love it. Scaling.
Just growth. That's the easiest word for this. You can only grow if you understand how to scale and when to scale. I see this with startups a lot, and I've made similar mistakes as well. That's why I can coach startups on certain scaling strategies and when to use them to drive the growth, because a lot of startups are not ready. They are just not ready for scaling. They're not ready for growth. But you need to understand that in order to get to a certain point in your business life, you need to scale. And if that means you need to spend more or need to hire more, then it is important to look at the right strategies for this. It's just sometimes people scale too quickly, or at times where they just shouldn't scale. I've made the same mistake. It's normal. It's human. We want to drive things forward. There are some companies that also don't want to scale, which is also fine. They know how much they're working. They know how much revenue they're driving. It's totally fine. They don't want to add 20 more people. Absolutely fine. But if you want to drive growth, you need to understand when to scale.
Love it, love it, love it. Such a powerful message. And this has been an amazing podcast. Quick question also. I know I asked you this when we had our first meeting, Dubai. I'm actually thinking about moving to Dubai very soon. What's it been like for you living in Dubai?
I don't want to say amazing, but it is in a way. I've never been in a place that is so dependent on networking and strategic networking as it is over here. This brings like certain struggles as well, because you will meet a lot of people with a lot of ideas where follow through and follow up is extremely hard with them. So sometimes you talk to someone and then it takes, and they agree on doing something with you, whatever that something is. And then it takes them 6 or 9 months to come back to you, because it's just the way the culture works over here. They just want to tell you that they're not moving forward right now, which as a German, we are used to straight yes or straight no or not now. Let's talk again. Over here, it's very hard to get definite answers on certain business things. On the other hand, you will meet so many people with so many ideas and so much vision. And I've never seen this anywhere else, that there's so much vision that basically everyone you talk to has some form of ideas, some form of vision. They always want to healthily compete with each other, but not against each other. Just, I want to get better. And they look at what some other person is doing or what some other business is doing. Oh, this is interesting, and I want to get better. Now I want to improve myself. It's not about I want to outrank these people. It's just, okay, so that's possible. I've never seen this to be possible, but here I see all of these opportunities, all of the possibilities. I need to step my game up. And that's really interesting. I've never seen this anywhere else. Maybe like 5 other cities in the world are similar to this, but especially here lately, so many more people are coming. And then obviously, I mean, the weather is amazing. If you don't look at the summer months, those 3 months of literal hell, other than that, it's a great place to live. I understand people that that don't like it. I completely understand. If you want to live more in an older city where you walk next to buildings that are 500 years old, obviously go to London, totally fine. And if you don't like the heat, obviously this is not the place. Whereas winter is quite nice. So winter here is like summer or spring in Europe. But the opportunities, that's the main thing. Just talking to people, and everybody has this positive mindset, and it's very rare to meet so many people with such a positive mindset. It's okay to talk about certain problems, but it doesn't turn into negative complaining. There's no negative spiraling here. Everybody's like, oh man, yeah, that's a problem, but how can we solve this? Whereas I go back to Germany, or I go back to other places, go back to Britain, and everybody's like, this is a problem. Let me talk about the problem and how I feel about the problem. There's this problem. Oh, the problem. Oh man, the problem. Right? So this is, and you don't have this here really. That's the amazing side to it. But I get how this is also a very competitive place to be. And it's not an easy place to live in. People need to be realistic about this when moving here. The job market here is just as competitive as anywhere else. And as an entrepreneur, it's also very competitive because there are so many other entrepreneurs coming here doing very similar things to what you're doing. But it's definitely a place where I would always tell anyone who's open to it should definitely try it out once. That's what I believe.
Powerful. Definitely, as I said, I'm looking now to be moving there, hopefully within the next 3 months. So maybe I'll catch you over there. But yeah, I really wanted to thank you for this. This was fun. And to be honest, there's so many more topics that we can go on. I think we barely even touched the surface, but we covered a lot in this, over nearly 50 minutes. But it's going to be good as this goes on LinkedIn. And what I love about LinkedIn, which I tell people, like this podcast, for example, we've just done is 52 minutes, right? LinkedIn loves that because that's retention. They want you on their platform longer. So LinkedIn now, this is what we just did now. It's going to spread it out to people. So after it, it's just going to be replaying, and there's so much value that you've given here. So, where can people find you? Can you take capacity for more clients? What is the perfect type of client for you if someone's watching this and potentially that we can connect you to? Yeah, just before we wrap up, can you just let us know real quick?
Absolutely. So I also like LinkedIn. Interestingly, Dubai or the Emirates is one of the most active areas on LinkedIn. So I think ranks number 2 or number 3 in the world of regions that are most active. LinkedIn. I really like that. So to me, what I do is I help companies grow. That's the main thing. I help them grow. I help them scale. I help them drive stories, and I can help them with just consulting, the typical consulting, so to speak. They come to me, I look at what they're doing, I give them a strategy on how to execute, and I hand the strategy over. Let's say you need to do more thought leadership, similar to what we're doing right now, or your SEO game is not working, your website is not converting, and I give them a strategy for them specifically on what they can do. Or they can get me on board fractionally. I will be there with them 10 to 20 hours per week. Obviously, the slots for this are a little bit lower, so I only have 2 slots per month that I give out, where companies can have access to me for 10 to 20 hours per week. We really dive in deep. I talk to the team. I try to find out which blockers there are. Oftentimes it's interesting when you talk to people, there are certain blockers in the companies that are not directly tied to the marketing, but I figure out how the internal structure is not working for them. Sometimes, for example, so if you have 4 or 5 people in the team, and oftentimes people think, like I see this a lot, they think they need to hire the 6th person on their marketing team. But oftentimes just look at the structure, and actually 4 people would be enough. So we can find a new way to utilize the 5th person. Instead of firing the 5th person, we try to find something else. We try to find ways to look at what the 5th person can do in the business as well, and on the marketing side. Or what we can also figure out is more on the business side, like business consulting wise, where the team environment is not working well. There's no team structure. And then I talk to the team and I figure out why that is. And then I realize that there's never a full team meeting for everyone. So they never meet once. They just send over whatever they have. They just send that over. So there's no actual connection to the company. So they are not happy with driving revenue. They're not happy with driving growth because they don't believe in the company. They're not part of a team. They're just sending stuff over, basically. So that's what I also do on the fractional side. And essentially my biggest passion is looking at the story. That's the main thing. And then I'll look at how can we drive the story, be it, as I mentioned before, be it SEO, be it thought leadership, be it video, be it funnel optimization. That's what I like. how can we build a coherent story for the brand, and how can this drive revenue? And that's what I love to do, and that's where people can can work with me. The easiest way is look up my name, because there's only one in the world, so it's really relatively easy. Just type that into Google, go to LinkedIn, message me directly, and then we'll figure out a way how to drive your business forward.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sebastian. This has been an amazing conversation. We're going to keep in touch and potentially do things like this in the future as well. And looking forward to what the future holds. And thank you so much for giving your vision, your mindset, your experiences. And I know, for the startup founders, CEOs, anyone who, when they're scrolling through LinkedIn and they have some time, they'll watch this as we head into Christmas period. This is where we're going to be pushing out content. So thank you so much, and have a blessed rest of the day.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. Was really valuable for me as well to be able to share this. I'm looking forward to talking more. Thank you so much. Have a great holidays.
Hey, what's wrong? Bro, I'm stressed out. I'm running my business. I've got to serve my customers, but I need more customers coming in. I can't keep relying on word of mouth. Why don't you just use ETS Rabasha Media? Who? Well, with AI now, what they do is they go in, get your perfect clients, bring them in front of you. So all I got to do is run my business and he brings me opportunities. Think about it. You speak to 3,000 of your ideal customers, convert 1% of that 3,000. That's 30 people. 30 people in a room with you. Can you convert that? Of course I'll close them. I'm good at what I do. I just don't have time to be going and looking for my perfect client. Focus on what you love doing and let them bring you customers. When you win, they win, commission, ching. Sujira Rabasha, huh? Yeah, Sujira Rabasha. Go and Google them, man. Come on, take it to the bank.
If you really enjoyed this video, make sure to click here, and I'm sure you're going to love that one.